Magnus Carlsen has played the Englund Gambit on chess.com. I think this is like one of the first times he's ever played it on chess.com. Englund Gambit is probably one of the worst openings, worst gambits in chess, because on move 1, you're already -1. Look at the eval bar. Already, move 1. Which is sick, and the dude accepts the gambit. He's facing an FM 2600. Like, this just shouldn't be the way. So Englund Gambit accepted. He brings out his knight. Magnus then offers f6, which is a quick way of developing his knight, and the 2600 accepts it. Andrew then develops his bishop to pin the knight to the queen. Magnus pushes away the bishop. Andrew drops back, and Magnus just plays d6. Not a care in the world. Nice and chill. You never see this at the top level. The Englund Gambit is so cool. Knight c3, bishop e6, and... you know, Magnus he's got some development. Maybe he wants to long castle. Maybe he wants to get his queen out here. I mean, white doesn't really have too much. The king structure is a little bit damaged on this side of the board, but, you know, not too bad. White then plays e4, which is attacking in the center. Maybe the e5 push is coming soon. Because if Magnus starts playing moves like this, then white starts jumping in. And if you trade off, then the queen starts becoming active. And this whole thing starts to get a bit dangerous for black. I mean, black's not even castled. White's about to bring this out, like, it's looking pretty good for white. But Magnus doesn't allow this to happen, of course. And after e4 pushes, Magnus stops all of this by pushing g5, which I like it, because g5 is like a ballsy move, isn't it? Because look at the king, like, is he going to castle this way? I mean, it's safe at the moment, but Christ, a few moves time, it could be dangerous. But it's Magnus Carlsen, bro. It's not going to happen. Bishop goes back to g3, and then Magnus goes queen e7, which is... likelihood he's going to castle long, right? Because then he's got this long pressure on the queen with the rook. White plays best move, which is bishop b5, which is pinning the knight. And now if Magnus castles, it's kind of not the best for black. The king is kind of... ooh, and then white's king is... ooh, even though that's not even the top move. What is the top move in this position? Top move is that. Ooh, this is nice. And maybe the queen's coming in. So Magnus doesn't castle, and he avoids all of this. And he just develops his bishop. Nice. Bishop g7. Ah, lovely. Oh, yes, that's what we like to see. White then castles. White has played pretty much the perfect game so far. So as Magnus. So the positions kind of still exactly how it was at the start. Like -1 for black, +1 for white. Magnus then castles kingside, which you would think, like, this is kind of ballsy, right? Because, like, all of his pieces are kind of aiming this way. Maybe not the bishop over here, but, like, the attacks coming this way. He's like, yeah, screw it. Bring it on, Boshki. White then takes the knight to dislocate his pawn structure and make him have double pawns. But you really think you're going to beat Magnus Carlsen in an endgame with double pawns? I don't think so. White then plays e5. Finally, the e5 pushes in the pawn break. Magnus does not take, and he just moves his knight to d5, which is a nice little in-between move. Because now if he takes, obviously the pawns are still strong, and if he takes, like, this is just, it's almost better for black. But it doesn't happen exactly like that. Magnus jumps in with his knight. The pawn is taken. The pawn's recaptured. And then white plays a nice sensible move, aligning with the queen, just making him feel a little bit uncomfortable, you know? Magnus goes queen d7, which is an inaccuracy. Best move here is to just take the knight and then just trade off, and then you're kind of forking the rooks. That's the best plan for black in this situation, but Magnus doesn't play that, and he just goes queen d7. Just, I mean, it's a sensible move, getting out of the pin. Maybe there was some danger. Who knows? White then stops the idea that Magnus just had. Also attacking the bishop twice with 2 things. So what's he going to do? Magnus plays rook. No, he doesn't. He takes the knight. He takes the knight because it's a great move because it was looking dangerous. Now he can get rid of this knight. And he kind of has to do something now, white. White has to take back because if he doesn't, then he's losing his queen. So white takes back. And then calm and collected, Magnus just plays bishop d5. I mean, now he kind of has that structure that we were looking at a second ago. Like, maybe you could just trade off the rooks now and just win in the endgame. Like, who knows? Let's see what happens. Queen d3, bringing the queen in the game. The queen's been there for the entire game, doing nothing. Rook a e8, trying to trade off the rooks. White doesn't want to trade off the rooks, and he pushes the pawn to try and put some pressure on this bishop. Magnus just drops the bishop all the way back. Look at this now. This is a crazy pin right now, so this could happen at any point. There's, like, I feel like black's almost better in this position now, although eval bar still likes white. But as you can see, the game's slowly but surely creeping back to level. White plays rook a d1 for this double attack and also getting out of the pin. Magnus then trades off the rooks to get that rook off that file. And then he offers another trade of rooks. Just get all the rooks off the game, win the end game. That's what Magnus is thinking. Too easy, bro. And white accepts the trade. Magnus takes, threatening to cause some trouble here. The queen would have to go back, but I don't think that's a very good move. That's my 2000 brain talking. Check, check, check. So h3 is played. Magnus attacks the queen with the bishop. White then jumps the knight in, which is a mistake. Even though it looks like a decent move, right? Because now you're attacking this 3 different ways and potentially just going to win a pawn. But I guess it's because maybe the queen's coming in and this could be double attacked at some point. Bishop drops back to protect this pawn because it was probably going to be taken. Queen goes over, offering a queen trade. Obviously, you can't take here because then you'll just lose the queen. Queen trade accepted by Magnus. And now the king comes up the board. Now it's the endgame. He somehow has the bishop pair in an endgame where he started with an Englund Gambit. And His opponent is like almost 2,700 rated. I guess it just shows that like the top players can literally just play whatever they want. Magnus was doing Title Tuesday. He was rolling the dice to pick what opening he was playing. And this is the opening that came up. The Englund Gambit. Bloody fantastic. White plays f4, trying to structurally be better than black in this endgame, because now maybe if he could push, then the pawns are going to start jumping forward. And white would have a lot more play. The king would become very active a lot quicker. But obviously Magnus knows this. He just brings his king up. Like, look how active the black king is compared to the white king already. Like, the king in the endgame is a majorly important part. Obviously, this doesn't work now because you could take... This is just endgame finesse at its finest. White takes the pawn. Magnus recaptures. And now white's king becomes active. Magnus currently doesn't have any squares he can really jump to with his king. So he tries to create some by bringing his bishop in. Maybe there's a trade. Like, the bishop pair right now is super strong. The knight's completely stuck because if he moves at any point, he's getting hit with this. Even though it's a drawn position, I prefer to be black in this situation. Although white does have a knight. You never know. King comes over because obviously the attack is going to be on these pawns here. Black creates some pressure with bishop e4, attacking this pawn. Keeping an eye on this pawn. Maybe this pawn pushes here at one point to stop this bishop from having any activity at all. If all the pawns are on light squares, then this dark square bishop is completely useless in this specific endgame. Bishop goes all the way back, trying to reroute it back here, so maybe you can attack this pawn. Magnus obviously knows like 4 moves ahead, so he just pushes his pawn. And he only pushes it 1 as well. It doesn't even push it 2, because potentially there was room for the knight to maybe get around. And then these pawns might have pushed here, and there wouldn't have been a pawn here to block this square, and the knight could have just jumped in. Imagine that. Literally 15 moves ahead. White goes g3. Like, white's playing a really good game right now. Like, white is playing almost the perfect move every single time. But Magnus is just playing bishop e5. And once again, you can't really do much. You can't go here now, because then this pawn's going. The king comes back over here to maybe protect this pawn, and maybe there's a push at one point. But it's too late, because d5 is happening, and now the push is on. White offers a pawn trade, but Magnus is not going to take this, because look at the attack now. Look at this pawn. The d pawn is now a pass pawn, and these pieces are doing nothing, whereas this pawn is going to do something. Magnus doesn't want the bishop to be taken, so he drops it back. White finally puts his bishop there, but now it's just an inaccuracy because it's blocked by the king. This pawn's going to be weak as soon as the king moves somewhere. He can't go here. He can't push the pawn. This knight's trapping the pawn. The endgame's just a disaster now. Like, black is completely winning. Magnus plays a missed opportunity here. He could have started rolling with the pawn. Then I guess it kind of invites the king in. But if he did do that, then he's getting hit with this idea. And if he takes, there's no way to stop this pawn. So Magnus plays a little bit of a miswin there. King goes back. Bishop attacks this pawn. How is white defending any of this? He has to sacrifice a pawn. And then white has to launch a pawn on this side. Now it's time for white to try and get some initiative in this losing endgame. Plays an inaccuracy, brings the bishop back. He probably should have just taken the pawn. Like, this bishop is maintaining this entire side of the board. So, like, he could have just taken the pawn. But he plays that bishop move. Knight jumps away. Bishop jumps back. White takes the pawn, and notably black can't jump in and recapture this pawn just now, but this pawn is completely halted, so it's kind of okay. Now you're just focused on getting your king in, pushing this pawn, getting rid of this pawn, making another one. And that's what Magnus does. He checks. King goes to d1. Best move. If king goes anywhere else, then king's kind of getting out the game, and it's time to push this pawn now. So king d1. Magnus brings his own king in, and then white blunders the entire game with knight g4 because of that. GG. Let's freaking go. I love the Englund Gambit, bro. Englund Gambit. Nice one, Magnus.